Koikatsu.
This part's going to be about the shading, so if you want to change how something looks, it'll probably be in here. I've got everything separated into chapters, so if you want to skip around, go right ahead. The very first thing I'm going to do is pack all the images into the blend file, and you can do that with this menu entry. Just make sure that that button is checked. And then I'm going to save all the images to make sure that the saturation is saved, using this button. When shading, it's a good idea to hide the armature. I'm also going to put this in rendered view, and because this is a toon shader, I can just increase the world brightness, and that'll light everything up. I also like putting a screenshot from Koikatsu in the corner, just to make sure that all the colors are correct. So this is the KKBP material setup. Some materials are a little special, but this is pretty much what you can expect for almost all the materials. And this is what each of the groups do. To select a specific material, you can just go into edit mode and select any face on the thing that you want to change. I'm going to start with the hair because it's the easiest. The colors are inside of this node group, so I'm going to open it using this icon. There's two color sections. The top section is for dark colors, and the bottom section is for light colors. I want to focus on the light colors right now, so I'm going to use the bottom section. Now I'm just going to go through each option. The first option is pretty obvious, it's just the hair color. The second option is if you want the plugin to automatically generate a detail mask color for you, or if you want to set your own using this color input. Now you might be asking yourself, what is the detail mask? And that's where the texture files group comes in. So let me back out there and look at the texture files group. There's a hair detail node coming out of this group, so I can just take that and put it into the material output, and that'll show me the detail mask. It's pretty easy to see that these green areas correspond to these dark areas on the hair. So if I want to manually set the color, then I can turn this on and set it to whatever color I want. I can also kick up the intensity of the detail mask here, or get rid of it entirely. The next one is rim color, and that can be set here. I'll go over the rim settings in a second. This is for highlights, but this character doesn't have hair highlights, so let me just load one in real quick. So for highlights, you get the color, which is right here, and you also get the intensity. And that's pretty low, so I'm going to kick it up to 5. This last section is for the fade mask, or the color mask. And let's say I don't know what that is either, so I'm going to back up to my texture files group. And this time I'm going to plug the hair color mask into the material output. If you break these down into red, green, and blue components, the red component would be the light hair color, the green component would be the dark color, which you can modify here. Just make that a little more obvious. As well as the intensity. And the blue color would correspond to the light color. For the rim settings, you can go into the rim group. So these are pretty self-explanatory. The lower you set this, the softer it's going to be. Or you can make a really hard one. And this makes the rim size larger. This rim group is for Blender only, so if you're planning on exporting the model, you can turn both of these all the way up. And the last group is the positioning group. If you wanted to change the hair highlight position, you can either edit this UV map, or use this mapping node to change the position of the highlight without changing the shape of it. Next up, I'm going to go over the body materials, specifically the face. The first option lets you switch between the main text and the skin color. If you set it to 0, you can set what your skin color is going to be. But if it's set to 1, then it'll use the main text. You can always back out to check what the main text looks like by using the texture group output. All of these options are similar to what they do in the actual game, so I'm going to skip over those. And this last group is for overlays. They should automatically load in, but if they don't, you can always load it into the texture files group. And overlay 1 is right here, so I'll load in a random file. And now that I've loaded in the file, I can position it with the positioning group. I loaded this file into overlay position 1, so I'm going to use this one. And just to check where it is on the face, I'm going to open this preview and select the plane. You can also set the colors for the eyebrows, the eyeline, the eye whites, and the eyes. The eye shader itself is pretty simple, so I'm not going to go over it, but I did notice from the screenshot that the highlights were turned off, so I did that. You can also create your own custom eye texture with this slider, but I'm not going to go over that. Instead, you can check out the link in the description if you want to know how it's done. There's a shader for the tongue too, so make sure you don't forget that. The body has that same main text slider, but other than that, it's pretty straightforward. The body also has a transparency toggle. This is used to make part of the body invisible to prevent it from clipping through things. But let's say your character is like a buff guy without a shirt and you want like the full body showing, you would just turn this toggle off. I saved the clothes for last because they have the most options. The first option is just like the hair. You can set the detail mask color or let the shader do it for you. This doesn't work really well with white clothing, so I'll change the color for clarity. And again, just like the hair, you can kick up the detail intensity. Some detail masks also have a blue component that you can change the intensity of. This one doesn't have that. And other detail masks have a red component that you can change the color of too. This is listed under Shine Color. And Shine Intensity. If you have a main text loaded in, the HSV values for that main text can be set using these HSV sliders. Once again, you can back out and see what the main text looks like by connecting the main text node to the output. These color mask colors are also like the hair color mask. Right now, the colors are using the colored main text, and that just means you can't set the colors manually. Like always, you can back out to see what the color mask looks like. And use this RGB information to determine what color goes where. You just need to turn off these two sliders to use the non-colored main text, and then you can set the colors manually. I'm not going to go over this, but if you have a pattern loaded in, you can set the pattern colors here, and then scale the patterns in the positioning group over here. Similar to the body, clothes also have alpha masks that prevent clipping through other clothes. Alpha masks can also allow you to use only certain parts of objects. For example, this alligator tail was turned into a shark tail by using the alpha mask feature. But now that the model is in a real 3D program, the invisible parts can actually just be deleted. I'm not going to go overboard with this, but you can see there's a lot of invisible stuff that I could delete to save those precious tries. And that's how you edit everything. Most of the time, all you need to do for clothes is set the detail color, set the detail intensity, and you're done. I'm just going to do this off screen because it's a little boring to watch. And this particular piece of hair seems to have been identified as an object instead of hair, so I'm just going to turn off this slider, and that'll make it match the rest of the hair. When you have all the light colors set up, you can start setting the dark colors, and you can get those by setting the world to pure black. If you don't like any of the colors, for example this skin color, then you can just change the dark color settings instead of the light ones. Again, this is pretty boring to watch, so I'm just going to do this off screen. Clothes also have special dark color options. You can either disable this and that, and set the dark colors manually using the color mask inputs, or you can leave these two enabled and use the automatically darken color slider, and that'll automatically darken stuff. Other than that, it's really the same thing as before.
Koikatsu.
The high quality normals are really slow, so they're disabled by default. You can switch from the optimized normals to the high quality ones by going to this location right here and connecting the output of this node, then unmuting this node. You can do that with the M key. This is only for use in Blender. If you're planning on exporting to a different program, then you don't need to do this. If you want to make something permanently lit or permanently dark, there's a slot for that in the green texture group, all the way at the bottom. Let's say I wanted to make the neck permanently dark to create a sort of head shadowing effect, so let me create a new image, and now I could just go to the texture paint tab and paint on the shadow. Permanently dark things are supposed to be blue, so I'm going to choose blue, and then I can just paint away. Okay, good, now I just need to make one for the body too. The Blender plugin does not replicate how the normals work like they do in-game, so if your light is at a weird angle, the face shape keys can look pretty bad. Luckily, there's a GFN normal setup that you can use to smooth things up. You can enable it by going to the face material, and then changing this raw shading group to the raw shading face group. And then you can go to the body material and turn off the normals. Now, no matter how the light is angled, you'll always have smooth face normals. And that's it for this section. The next video will show how to export the model as an FBX file.